Thomas, how are you?
Jonathan, I'm doing good. It's been a week since we actually had a podcast, so lots happened since the day after the election when we did our podcast. So a lot of picks coming in for Trump and all that. So let's jump into some of the controversy what's going on. We're going to jump into CNN, and as that headline reads on CNN, inside Trump's latest fury of controversial cabinet picks. So let's leave it there with the picture of the three people. All
Yep.
right. Let's start with Tulsi Gabbard. He's going to be director of national intelligence. I think personally, I think it's a good pick. She's going to surround herself with key people, and that's what it's going to come down to. Um, there's a lot of controversy in regards to the Secretary of Defense, and that is the Fox guy, Pete Hegseth, and he has military background and all that. I have my own thoughts of why that pick was done, and of course, Matt Gaetz, so as U.S. Attorney General. So, do you have some thoughts on these three individuals? Let it be controversial. Are you comfortable with it? Are you kind of shaky about it? What are your thoughts, Jonathan?
I mean, I think Trump is, and we're seeing it. He's going to go through and pick who he wants to pick.
Mhm.
I think he's learned from his first term,
Okay.
and he's really trying to make a difference. Whether it's the change we need, uh, we'll see. But I think he's being strategic with who he wants to pick. I think some of them are potentially shaky, like you said.
Okay.
I've seen a bunch of clips of Matt that are less than ideal for his history.
Okay.
Uh, some of the things that I guess you wouldn't want a uh, person in power to say on camera or behind the scenes.
Hmm.
Uh, Tulsi, I think I thought that was a person that was good for him during the election. I think she'll be good for him, uh, in the place that he's putting her.
Okay.
And I mean, Pete was a interesting one. I didn't know that he would even be an option for that position. So I guess a little surprised for two out of three, maybe.
Okay.
How about you?
I'll tell you my thoughts on Pete. There's a guy who runs a podcast called Independent Americans.
Hmm.
Uh, Personally, it should be called Independent Marxist. I've been watching the guy's videos, his guests, and all that. He leans really beyond leftists. Okay, and he has a military background and everything. He was on MSNBC talking about and basically throwing rocks at Pete, saying he's not qualified, etc. I think with Trump's thoughts here, he wants people that's going to be loyal to him, totally loyal. I think Pete is going to be in there. He has no ties to any of the military industrial complex, where a lot of these senators do have, ties to the military industrial complex. There was a gentleman, I think, oh, I forgot his last name, Croyer or something. He's a U.S. senator from Iowa. There was talk about him being picked. So he's a little bit I think upset he got his panties ruffled by Trump. So I think Pete's going to be loyal. And I remember going back into the 90s, early 90s, when there was an article that came out that said, oh, the Pentagon got charged over $600 for a hammer. They're being taken advantage of. There's probably about 45% pure fat in the military industrial complex to
Yeah.
pay off people, pay off, senators, politicians. And also, a lot of that money is used for NGO, non-governmental organizations, where they're basically, working under the CIA's umbrella and kind of like, dark ops. And that's what they do with these budgets as well, too. Tulsi, I'm cool with. Matt Gaetz, I'm not cool with. Okay. Matt Gaetz, as you said, he has a little bit of a shady past there.
Yeah.
Matt Gaetz graduated. By the way, Matt Gaetz is what we call a legacy from a frat house in the sense of legacy in politics. I think he's a good fighter in Congress. He's shown it, but to put him in charge as U.S. Attorney General, that is probably the third most powerful seat in the United States because you have the Department of Justice, FBI, DEA, ATF. They're all reporting to you. You have 94 U.S. attorney appointments you have to make. So He graduated, he actually passed the bar exam in February of '08 in Florida. And then in November of 2010, he actually ran for state legislator. So, you're talking 2.5 years later. So really, I don't even think he has no federal court experience. He has, I don't even think he has court experience for prosecuting. So how can you put the person who's going to be the U.S. Attorney General in the biggest prosecuting seat in the United States? I have an issue with that. There's a lot of things floating around saying because he resigned from Congress right away. Maybe they're looking to remove him from Congress. But then again, Mark Rubio is going to be the Secretary of State. So he's going to be stepping away. And his seat's up for reelection in November of '28. So you're talking 4 years. Is this going to be a play with the information that they're looking to come out with this sexual affair he had with a 17-year-old that Congress did a probe on? Will he just withdraw his name and then DeSantis will appoint him U.S. Senator? Who knows? There's a lot of different plays there, but he should definitely not be U.S. Attorney General. Your thoughts on what I said, Jonathan?
I think it's kind of goes back to what we both said, that Trump learned from his first term who he
Okay.
picked, and a lot of the not a lot, but some of the people he picked turned out not to be on his side,
Okay.
and they left or he got rid of them, and so I think he is looking at more of the loyalty than
Okay. I
anything
agree
else.
with you there. I agree
I
with you
think
there.
I mean, listen, I've seen and watched Pete on Fox for years. He seems like a
Okay.
stand-up person. I think he is definitely going to be that loyal person to Trump.
Totally agree
Uh,
with you. Totally agree.
so we'll see. I mean, he's picking all of his people. Um, some are going to be better than others, but we won't know until we know. I mean, I guess we have to
Exactly.
just wait and see what happens.
All right. And then on Wednesday, the U.S. Senate did a secret vote, and this is before you have the new senators coming in the beginning of January. So they want to pick a GOP leader. So there were three guys up for it, and the guy who got elected was John Thune. He's actually going into his 20th year as a U.S. senator. He's known as the Rhino. He's connected with Mitch McConnell, who's been a problem and an issue, especially during Trump's first 4 years. So I'm not happy with this. A lot of people are hoping, even Elon Musk, that Rick Scott would be that person. However, this guy John Thune's in there. Let's hope they're going to do the right thing patriotically and constitutionally for the people of the United States and not play, politics and stall things on Trump, especially his picks. But one thing Trump said to them before they voted, he wanted all three candidates to agree actually for a recess so he could push through his picks. So I don't know if they all agreed, but let's see if they're going to be, men of their word, especially John Thune, since he's the one that got elected on that. Your thoughts on him, Jonathan?
And like I mentioned before, with him, I don't know too much about him. Um, I think it just goes into kind of what we're saying with Trump and his pick. Some are a little bit more like known that you knew he was going to give these people a pick, and then this person, we'll see what happens in the Senate. We'll see what he does and how it works. But
Yeah, let's
um,
see how he's going to lead.
the fact that Trump has House, the Senate, and now presidency, he should. It's all on him. We've been saying for months that we can't have Harris be the president. It's got to be Trump. He's going to get us out of the issues quicker. There's still going to be
Mm-hmm.
issues, but
Okay.
um, you'd hope now that he's setting up himself so he can be as successful as possible for the American people, because that's all we want. That's all we're looking for.
100%. Let's go on the phrase you just said that Trump's going to get us out of this quicker. Go to the next slide. Okay. So this morning came out credit card debt hits record 1.17 trillion. All right. That is up 8% this time last year. That's $147 billion that consumer debt is up. This is scary. This is really, really scary. Now, Trump had said about a week before the election that he would actually have a deal where they would cut the credit card interest rates to a maximum of 10% for a period of time. What that period of time is hasn't been defined, but to help people pay off. Americans, I understand there's inflation, but the more you feed into your credit card debt, it's like throwing more logs on the fire, and the ethanol is even burning more because it's just feeding your debt to get bigger and bigger because of the interest rates. You have to just put those credit cards to the side. There's guys like Dave Ramsey that'll teach you stuff like that, but this is
Yeah.
getting way out of hand, way out of hand. I mean, thank God I'm in a position where I don't have any issues. Earlier in my life, I dealt with it for about a 4-month period when I was able to get myself out of it. I know people in this for like 4 and 10 plus years into credit card debt. Jonathan, I know you are, financially responsible. What are your thoughts on this report?
It's very easy for us to say don't use your credit cards when you have the ability not to, but it doesn't surprise me. I mean, have you looked at credit card rates, for people, and most people carry balances, so you're putting them in a position where they can't get out of it,
Yeah,
right? I mean, listen, I'm sure there is a good percentage of people that are buying things and materialistic things that they don't need, right? Watches, suits, cars, all this stuff that they
correct,
can't afford. So that's
correct.
got to go away. You got to be responsible with what you do with what you have, right? If you have, I always use the rule, I'm more conservative. If you can buy the item 2 or 3 times over, then you should buy it. But if you're buying it and you can barely buy it, you shouldn't buy it.
Okay,
So, like for an example, if you want to buy yourself a belt that's $500, if you can't buy it 3 times, then don't buy it once.
okay.
Just the kind of that's my rule that I use. But for people out there, I mean, listen, you go to the stores. I went yesterday to the store to Whole Foods. Orange juice was $5 a gallon, right? Or no, five
Wow.
dollars for a quart. Um, so the prices are just, you have to just kind of just.
Hold on a second. Did you say $5 for a quart?
I got it. Not a quart. It was for
Half
a.
half gallon?
Yeah, that's what.
Still a
So
lot of money.
it's still a lot of money. I mean, milk was what it was same. I mean, the same thing. They're all about the same price. They're not, the eggs. I mean, so I understand the people out there that have to use their credit card. They have to go out
Sure.
there and buy. There's no. It used to be for people that they can go out to the store, or you go to whatever Stop and Shop or ShopRite or Whole Foods, and Whole Foods is always more expensive, but you
Of
can go out
course.
there and you can get good food and pay a reasonable amount. Right now, it's not like that. There's very little options, and you're gonna
Yes.
spend it. So I can understand why look at the credit card debt over and over, why it's
Yeah.
going up.
It's just climate. And and like I said earlier, and you're talking about it, it's the interest rates. I had a friend of mine that stopped by over the weekend on his way back to Florida. And I know he had issues with, credit cards, and I actually coached him through it a few years ago, and he was clearing it up. And now he told me he's actually like at 9,000. I'm like, I was like, dude, that's still high. You got to get out of it. He's like, oh, I will, and he was away for the weekend, and he put $700 on his credit card. Well, that $700 will be, over $1,000 with the interest rates before you know it. So, I said, what are you paying? Like, 20% a bet? He goes, no, it's not that high. Okay. He goes, no, it's only 18%. I'm like, dude, you're like a rock throw from 20%. 18% still high.
They're
So
all
it's incredible.
they're all high.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone gets these credit card offers. They're all they're all big, right? So it's not
Yeah.
a listen. It's easy for us to say don't hold credit card debts and whatever. But if you have to, you have to. Just be responsible with what you buy and try to figure out what you make, right? And then figure out how are you gonna get out of that hole. That's what you got to figure out. And
Yeah.
but I feel it. I feel the pain.
And Trump's inheriting a lot of stuff. And let's go to the news that came out yesterday from Advanced Auto Parts. Okay, this is pretty heavy, and it's going to be pretty quick. They're looking to shut down 700 locations by the middle of 2025. That being the case, we're about 7, 8 months away from that happening. Now, I'm going to take a guess. I'm going to assume there's roughly what would you say, maybe 10 employees that could be part time and full timers at each location?
probably around there.
All right. So let's say it's 10. What's 10 times 700? That's 7,000 people. That's a lot. I'm sure maybe they'll find places for a certain percentage of them, but let's just say they find place maybe for 2,000 out of that 7,000. You got 5,000 people losing income, okay, and some could be part-time income or whatever it may be. But this is scary, and this is something that you and I spoke about at the end of December last year. We've mentioned it a few times on our podcast and even more recently, probably the last couple of them, that 2025 is going to be the worst year. Okay. Just because Trump's in office doesn't mean, oh, wow, the economy's going to be great. It's not going to be great. Okay. He's inheriting a bolt, like a huge shitload. That's what he's inheriting, a boatload of shit. And he's going to have to, it's going to take time. And I see the earliest part of us getting out of this is probably sometime in the middle to the end of the fourth quarter of next year. So we're talking a year from now. That's with our fingers crossed. However, if Trump decides to push to have the interest rates lowered, that's going to be bad because that's going to weaken the U.S. dollar. All right. We don't want that to happen. We got to fight through this. So hopefully he's going to use a financial godly compass in making this, work correctly. So we don't want to lose value in the dollar. And, he actually had a dinner last night where Sly Stallone introduced him. I think it was called America's First Group. It was at Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah,
And if
so
you guys want to YouTube, I got to tell you, Sylvester Stallone gave such an introduction. It was like, wow, it was just something. He compared, Trump to, being the George Washington, but you got to listen to it. It's a 2-minute thing. I'm sure you'll find it on YouTube, but it's phenomenal. But Trump was talking about, hey, how the stock market's gone up, and he was kidding around. Maybe we should start my term on November 5th. Well, listen, the stock market was down yesterday. It's down today over 245 points. Jonathan, if you can pull up that history link on Yahoo Finance, all right? Right now, what's the market at? Hold on. And this is lunchtime on Friday, November 15th. It's down, what is that, 200 and how many points, Jonathan?
228.
Oh, yeah. So we're at 43,622. Okay, 400. Okay, so 43,431. I want you to scroll down to October 18th. Okay. What's that? What did the market close at? 43,275.
Hmm.
So you know what? Trump said, hey, the market shut up 2,000 points when I was elected. Yeah, dude, that's right. 10 days later, it's leveled off and it's going back down. All right. But the market on October 18th was at 43,275. So, you're less than 200 points from that, bringing that up. Again, he's going to inherit stuff. And I understand that. The market's going to take a hit. Everything's going to take a hit next year. Jobs, it's going to be job losses, et cetera. Jonathan, your thoughts?
You got to take the wins and the losses, right? He can't just take the wins when they're there and not take responsibility for the losses. So, yeah, like you said, it looked good for a couple of days. We'll see where it ends up. The stock market's a funny thing. It's very you may think like most people, oh, the stock market's going up. I'm gonna get into it, and then they get into it, and then as soon as it goes down, they want out of it because they don't want to deal with it. So we'll see. I mean, the we'll see how it works out for him. He's gotta do he really has to do what he says, and he has to be responsible with what he's doing. Elon, I mean, I'm more excited to see how Elon Musk does the government, what is it called, the government efficiency board, or
The Department of, uh, they call it Dodge. Yeah, Department of Government Efficiency. And they were making fun of it because it's after the Dodge coin or something.
Dogecoin. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And it's going to be interesting because, he spoke about bringing Ron Paul on, and Ron Paul had agreed this before the election. So I hope that happens. I'm very happy that, Bobby Kennedy Jr. is going to be the Health and Human Services Director. Yeah, and I saw an article on CNBC where they're talking about, oh, the pharmaceutical stocks have gone down, because of that. Hey, listen, food in this country, the way it's processed and everything, they're poisoning us, the Americans. And listen, when I was a kid in the 70s and that, mom would bring in fruit. And the thing is, if you didn't eat that fruit in 3 days, you had to toss it. Now you can leave it there for 3 weeks and you eat it. So whatever they're putting into it, we're putting into our system. So many people are obese, and it's scary how many people are obese. And, I carry an extra 40 pounds and, not proud of it. But, the thing is, I've always been pretty much a big guy. But you know what? You got to worry about your health, especially these younger people. You look around and I'm like, my God, they're huge. They're huge. It looks like they're like living at a buffet table at, the Cracker Barrel or something. It's a scary thought.
Yeah.
Jonathan, I know you've always been a pretty much fit guy in that, because you've been athletic in that. But what are your thoughts on all this stuff?
I personally think that all food should be standard organic. We should get all the pesticides and chemicals out of all of our foods. Um, it should have all the sugary stuff, the drinks, processed foods, all that, frozen foods, all those things are just bad. I mean, to keep ourselves, healthy, we need to eat the right way. You have to treat your body like it's your body, it's your temple. You have to take care of
Exactly.
it.
I was just about to say that, but I'm glad you used the word temple. 100%.
So
That's it. I agree. Yeah, and the thing is, I mean, listen, I go to the gym. I'm a strong guy. I go to the gym. I'm lifting, and I actually go to University of South Carolina to work out in the campus, and I see some of these girls that are in there and guys. I'm like, holy cow, you're like 18, 19, 20 years old, 21, and the shape they're in. I'm glad they're in the gym, but man, these girls are like, listen, I'm a guy that's 6'1", 240. And some of these girls, their thighs are bigger than, both my thighs put together. That would scare me. God forbid you're underneath the sheets with them. You're not coming up for air. But anyway, all kidding aside, I mean, you know what? We do have to treat our body like a temple, and hopefully Bobby Kennedy is going to get in there and put the pressure and tighten the screws on these people, and also educate them. So that's what it comes down to. Any further thoughts, Jonathan?
let's just continue to, dive in and we'll see what's going on and just be careful with your money, be careful with your food and health, and just, live a healthy, happy life.
Hey, that's it. Everybody, listen, we'll talk to you next week. Thumbs up. Have a great day. Enjoy your weekend. Be good. Bye bye.
Take care.